In a world of fake news, this is news you can trust. When it comes to hilarious jokes, we are the 99%. You're listening to the Babylon Bee with your hosts, Kyle Mann and Ethan Nicole.
I am not sure what that means.
I don't know.
99%. Did you write that joke?
I might have written that one. I don't know.
One of those.
Would you rather be the 1% because that you're the rich joke maker?
Was that one of your late nights? You're on your fourth cigar.
I write them thinking this is a brainstorm. Kyle will look over them.
Kyle will fix these.
He will reject some of these, so I'm just going to go loose. And then they just end up all going to Dave and they use them all.
So I'm like the Hollywood producer that's sitting there with his feet on the desk. I'm like,
yeah,
that's great. Ship it.
Garbage.
Hey, garbage. crap. That one's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not bad. So
Not
we are the
crap.
99%.
Yeah.
And welcome to the Babylon Bee podcast. I'm Kyle Mann, and this is my beautiful, perfect host, Ethan Nicole.
Wow, thank you. I've never been called beautiful and perfect.
Well, it's like President Trump's phone calls. They're beautiful and perfect. So that's what.
true.
If you were a phone call, you would be a phone call
I'm
to
the
the
living
Ukraine.
embodiment of a Trump phone call.
Yeah, a Trump call to Ukraine.
Wow, thank you.
Ukraine is weak.
Tearing up.
All right. So what are we doing here?
Well, we're talking as podcast, so if there's any silence, then people are like, "Oh, is it over?"
I guess I'm going to turn it off now.
Yeah, we're in our new format. This is our second episode in our new format where we break the show up, and we have a cool interview this week on the interview show.
Yeah, we just got off the line with McGill Alexander.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, in the show. That's actually his show, but it's pretty cool. It's about this guy.
Yeah, he was in a hostage situation, and we talk about it, and it's pretty neat. So
yeah,
he has a great. We actually don't talk much.
Yeah, it's one of our least episodes.
It's like
we talk.
We don't have anything to add. We're just like, go ahead.
He's an amazing storyteller, and anyway, be looking for that on Friday, I believe.
Yeah.
So, but this week, anything happened to you this week? This week, my big event is probably that I cut the tip of my finger off with a mandolin slicer.
So what is a mandolin slicer?
It slices tomatoes thin. So you kind of go like back and forth and it slices off like a sliver of tomato. And then my finger was too low and it took off. It was my first time using a mandolin slicer. And I didn't realize there's a little thing you put on top of the potato to protect your hand. I was just an idiot. I got home. When I get home from work, I immediately start making dinner because I'm just like, it's been established I am the dinner maker. My wife has been actually making more lately, but it happened after having our last kid. Is like, all right, I'll be making dinner because you got a newborn baby to deal with, and so I just kind of like in this rush because we had ham cooking, and I just started cutting this. I'm like, oh, cool, new potato slicer I haven't used yet. The wife got it like a thrift store, and then blood everywhere.
How would you rate your experience with the mandolin slicer?
Once I got the hang of it, it's great.
I like when people go on Amazon and
purely my fault.
When people go on Amazon and they rate products. And it's something like that. They'll say, sliced my finger off.
Clearly, it was your fault.
2 stars.
There are some amazingly hilarious Amazon reviews.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
But now I think people are doing it ironically.
Possibly.
And that's just not as fun.
Yeah. How about you?
It was better when...
Are you intact?
It was pure. Am I intact? Did something happen
physically?
to me? Did something happen to me?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any good stories this week?
Do I have any good stories from this week?
I mean, technically we record this at the beginning of the week, so the week has only begun.
So we did, we've been going to Disneyland.
A lot.
So Friday, my wife's like, it was like 5 o'clock.
That has to have emotional damage.
It was like, it was 5 o'clock and she's like, do you guys want to go to Disneyland?
5 o'clock?
In the evening? Yeah.
Wow.
And, sometimes we do it in the evening because it's done with work. You just go for a few hours. Wow. And she's like, and everybody, like all the boys were just like, nah.
You tapped him out on the most magical place on Earth.
I think my oldest boy was like, we've been going there a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
calm down.
So I tried to drum up some interest, but I wasn't able to. So I just had a quiet weekend at home, playing board games and video games and having a lot of fun. So
cool.
Doing some personal writing, trying to do some projects and
writing in your diary.
Writing in my Dear Diary. Today, Ethan made fun of me, and it was very sad.
So I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you are perfect and beautiful.
Thank you. Before we get to our stories, we want to remind you that we have the new Babylon Bee Best of book coming out.
Oh yeah.
And it's we're
a pre-order. Make sure you guys know if you order it, it's still not going to get there for a while. But
we have this giant pre-order button, and people are clicking on it and then sending us a message saying, "Where's the book?"
Yeah, they don't understand what
pre-order.
pre-order means.
It's not out yet.
You're getting first in line.
Yeah, so we should have some previews maybe to show you soon, because we're going to be about done with the first draft pretty soon here. Mm-hmm. So, and then we just got to do. There's a bunch of stuff to print a book. We got to edit it and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's going to be beautiful. So check it out on our site, shop.babylonb.com.
Yeah, and also we had Doug TenNapel on a while back, the guy that made Earthworm Jim.
And more importantly, did the 5 Iron Frenzy album covers.
Yeah, 5 Iron. Yeah, you guys can listen to that episode. But I actually got my Earthworm Jim because I supported his Kickstarter, and it's the craziest package I've ever gotten from a Kickstarter. Like, there's art all over the cardboard box. The books are these massive, like, full color.
I was seeing people post on social.
It comes with all these cards and stickers, and like, it's just awesome. Like, so if you're into like getting a cool box of stuff, and if you have any interest in Earthworm Jim or just cool art books, I've never seen anything better. It's really cool. So he just started a second round. It's up right now.
It's like a second printing. Are they doing anything new in there, or is it?
He has a new print that comes with it, but it really is kind of a second chance for people who missed the first round to get them. So if you're curious about that, check it out. We'll put the link in the show notes.
Groovy.
Now, stories of the week. Should we get into our weekly stories?
Am I as perfect and beautiful as a Trump phone call?
I wouldn't go that far.
Sad.
Every week, there are stories. These are some of them.
Story number 1. Media offers thoughts and prayers that someone would start some violence at the gun rights rally. So the Virginia government is considering some gun control proposals.
I always thought of Virginia as like super redneck, but I guess not. Oh, that's West Virginia. They're different states, right?
My favorite part of this podcast is just letting Ethan keep talking.
I know, whenever I start going, he just stares at me.
That's Virginia. West Virginia is another state than Virginia, isn't it? Are they in America?
I only learned that recently, and I was like, wait, what? West Virginia and that's two different things?
Are those states in America? Are they? What happened? Where are they? Like, just go on and on. So yeah, I guess there's a bunch of anger because they're considering these crazy, they make it as crazy as California in terms of gun control. Red flag laws, one handgun per month purchase policy.
One a month. It's like a subscription. The Netflix of handguns.
You can get a box. It's like a loot crate.
The loot crate.
The handgun.
The shoot crate.
In a month. So they had a big rally at the Capitol on Monday, and on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and the media was kind of hyping it up as like this was going to be major violence. They do this a lot when there's a big gun protest, I think, because they just can't wrap their heads around all these guns are in one place and nobody is shooting them.
Yeah.
Like they're like, if you just get them all together, it's just going to be this black hole of evil or something.
Going off like popcorn kernels. Microwave popcorn.
So Governor Ralph Northam said they're not coming to peacefully protest. They are coming to intimidate and cause harm.
Well, these are your constituents, right? Like he's supposed to be trying to get these people to vote for him.
Yeah.
He just thinks it, because a lot of people showed up, right? Like
there's a lot of people.
Ton of people.
It was in the tens of thousands, if I remember right. Dan,
I just saw pictures.
Dan, our Snopes representative here, can fact check us.
Okay. Is that what Dan's new title is? Snopes representative?
Official Babylon Bee fact checker. Yeah, so the whole thing finished up peacefully. There was videos of them cleaning up their trash. There was all this talk that this is a white supremacist rally. They were trying to compare it to Charlottesville. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the big Unite the Right rally that ended in some violence. And people were cleaning up their trash. And there were minorities that were marching with them, and I think people didn't know what to make of it. So
yeah, well, a lot of it wasn't fitting the narrative, huh?
There definitely was a palpable disappointment in some crowds when nothing materialized.
Yeah.
Yeah, so MSN News is saying 6,000 people were cheering speeches in the Capitol Square.
Gotcha. Thought it was more like 10,000 plus.
You round up.
It's because I watch Fox News.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fox News.
Yeah, I get it. I speak French.
Faux news.
Yeah.
Is it faux?
Faux, yeah.
Oh, I guess faux. I would say foul.
Foul? You do?
Wait. Foul.
After making fun of my geography?
Foul.
You Pronounce F-A-U-X.
If we talked a lot, if we talked a lot less, we would seem a lot less dumb.
Wow.
But I guess that's
the weird thing about doing a podcast is that you say things out loud that you've only read.
Never say.
Yeah.
That's just in the fenced-in area of the square.
Oh, yes.
So
I thought it was more than that.
There's probably more than that in the street.
Gotcha. Thank you, Snopes.
As usual, another failure of human estimation. The crowd size, at this rally for projectile weapons, was 22,000 mortal life forms.
Like if you say, well, how do you say faux pas then?
I guess I do say faux pas. So maybe I've always said faux.
You say foul pass?
No, I've always said faux. How
do you say hors d'oeuvres?
How do you say Vietnamese soup? Pho.
Pho. Yeah.
Even though it's spelled
weird.
faux.
Yeah, it's weird.
So this is another one of those stories where we had the expectation of what was going to happen and the media portrayal, like the Joker. And then I was also thinking of, I think on the last episode we were talking about Iran.
Oh yeah,
and how the media portrayal was, this is it, this is World War III, and it's just completely the exact opposite. Yeah, same thing. This is major violence.
Disappointed. Yeah,
people are going to be shooting up the Joker movie. Yeah. I finally saw Joker, by the way.
Oh really?
Have you seen it yet?
No.
It's pretty good. I don't know. It got a ton of Oscar.
It never gets me. Whenever somebody they say, it's pretty good. Like, okay, well, I'm not going to see it. I guess I don't want to come away from a movie.
I guess you got a bunch of the Oscar nods. Yeah, and I was kind of like, okay, that got some Oscar nods. Like I didn't really, it didn't seem, I don't know. It didn't really fit in the Batman universe either because it's like in the 70s and he's already an old guy, and so I didn't.
Weird.
I'm a Batman purist. And
sad. How about the next story? What do you think?
Sure.
Bernie Sanders clarifies. Wait, how do you say this word? Gulag or gulag?
Snopes. Bernie said gulag.
Okay. Bernie Sanders clarifies his gulags will. It feels like gulags. Bernie Sanders clarifies his gulags will be democratic gulags. Oh, this went in both.
The G it's pronounced like in Spanish.
Gulag.
Gulag.
If you say it like a soldier guy, Russian soldier or whatever. Gulag.
Gulag.
Yeah, it has to be all.
Go to gulag.
Okay. His gulags will be democratic gulags. The joke here being
that headline has been thoroughly
destroyed,
butchered. So an undercover video came out. This is the same group that did the Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, I did a lot of all those different. These are the guys.
Why are these guys not
Project
getting Veritas? Why are they not getting like Pulitzers for this?
Because they're fabricating all this somehow.
That still amazed me. That they videotape people saying we're going to sell these human body parts, and then nothing came of it. I mean,
they still managed to somehow frame the story that it's all made up and that they're just taking their words out of context. Like, how's that? It's a full clip of a person saying we sell baby body parts.
Yeah. Well, they said, the footage has been edited and manipulated.
Yeah, edited.
I'm like, I'm watching it. It hasn't been edited.
Yeah,
it hasn't been manipulated. I'm watching it.
Yeah. We know it edited.
They're telling you this is not what you are seeing with your eyes.
Doctored. Yeah.
And people
are they putting voices on face? Are they using like some kind of Snapchat filter?
Yeah. Well, you could tell they were using a Snapchat filter because the Planned Parenthood lady looked like a dog.
Yeah. Whenever she opened her mouth, a giant tongue rolled out.
The big snout. And So James O'Keefe, it's his group, and they did they released an undercover video of one of Bernie Sanders' staffers saying that cities will burn if President Trump is reelected. And they said they need to do free re-education and free education policies to teach you how not to be a flower-bedding Nazi. There is a reason Stalin had gulags.
It's insane. Like everything that you would caricature a person, a Bernie supporter, like you can't go as far as this guy went. I believe we actually have some audio.
Do we have a clip?
Yeah. A pre-flower-bedded audio clip.
So if Trump gets reelected, what?
Flower bed.
Cities burn. The only thing that fascists understand is violence. So the only way that you can confront them is with violence. If Bernie doesn't, if they
Flower bed.
take Bernie from us, then we have nothing else left to lose.
Guys like that.
What are we going to do with them? Gulag.
There's a reason Joseph Stalin had gulags, right? And actually, gulags were a lot better than like what like the CIA has told us that they were. Like people were actually paid a living wage in gulags. They had conjugal visits.
So they're better than America.
Gulags were actually meant for like re-education.
So, unlike working at McDonald's, gulags will pay you a living wage.
They're paid a living wage. They're living the American dream, the gulags.
You probably had free health care, too.
Yeah, better health care. At least everything was equal. Yeah. Everybody was equally miserable.
Yeah. They're probably very green.
Yeah.
Energy efficient.
Yeah, low waste.
Very low waste.
Mm-hmm. Because there was a lot of plastic straws being wasted.
The electricity was always going out.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it is amazing to me, kind of what you were saying, that the this is the conservative caricature.
Yeah.
Of, you know, your uncle who watches Fox News says, they're going to throw everybody in gulags. Mm-hmm. And you're like, come on, chill out.
Well, it's almost like what in the last story, they were caricaturing gun owners as like they were going, they're all going to be a bunch of white supremacist KKK members that just open fire with their trigger, itchy trigger fingers and crazy racists. And then, that's a caricature, but then your caricature of these guys would be this, and that's what he's saying. The worst things you can imagine. You could be worse. Defending Stalin.
Yeah, so I guess they had the Bernie Sanders campaign had a tweet up where they showed the picture of this guy, and it was like, it's one of our top staffers.
Oh, geez.
And then they deleted it.
And they haven't responded to this at all?
I'm not sure.
Stan says no. No response, and this hasn't been in the media too. That's one thing. It's kind of old news relatively, because I think this is like last week or whatever. Not in the news cycle. It's kind of old news, but we wanted to make sure it was heard on our show because it's not. The mainstream media is just completely ignoring it, right?
Yeah. And on the one hand, you can say that any campaign is going to attract some crazies.
Yeah.
But it seemed like there were multiple clips where multiple things were being said, and again, it doesn't seem like he was a low level just rando.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the kids say now.
Rando.
Yeah. It saves a lot of time.
Yeah. M is a long letter to have to add towards. Anything else to say about this one? I'm curious about the other clips they got because they said they got more.
Like what would be? I'm curious what the right wing equivalent of this would be if you.
Yeah. What would that would be like? Jasper, Cletus, and white hoods and. Hanging but people have to be someone crosses, right?
Like on the Trump campaign.
Yeah.
Like a guy
who's high up
in the Trump campaign going.
And he's like, the KKK had it right.
Burning crosses, it wasn't as bad as
the FBI made it. The CIA made it out.
I love that part. He's like, the CIA lied about the gulags. They were pretty nice.
The slaves had a living wage back in the day.
They paid them a living wage. Roof over their heads.
Oh, man.
This is all satirical.
Satirical.
I can't wait till this podcast gets big enough. We probably have to wait until we get into video.
Yeah, and then our faces
which is coming up soon.
Hated.
But, the Daily Wire, they have, I forget who it is.
They got people that just watch them like hawks.
It's Vox, or it's not Vox, it's the Media Matters or something. And their whole job, like one guy's whole job is just to watch all Daily Wire shows.
Yeah.
And pull out clips that make them look bad or whatever and put them up.
Wow.
He's probably their most loyal viewer.
Yeah.
This guy.
How many they got doing that?
This raging leftist that has to watch Daily Wire for a job. So we can't wait till we have a fan like that.
Maybe someday. One can dream.
One can only dream.
All right.
Story number 3. Pelosi releases limited edition replica of dentures worn during Trump impeachment.
Remember when I saw this story before it came out, is in the drafts folder, and I was like, "What the heck?"
You think Kyle's finally lost it.
Yeah. Well, no, because this is a common experience for me. I'll see a story in the drafts folder, knowing it's not out yet, and then it'll come out, and I'll look, and it'll have like an insane amount of shares, and I'll be like so confused. And so
it's always
Kyle has the heart. He gets it. He gets you people.
I'm giving all of our fans a figurative side hug, and I know I'm in touch with them. No, but you also usually don't know the story that's underlying. Yeah, I didn't know that there was
a story underlying this.
So the story underlying this was that Nancy Pelosi had custom pens made.
Okay.
to sign this serious and somber impeachment thing.
That is funny. That's like,
and they were like brought out on
a wedding and you make custom mints or something. Like
yeah, it's like
everybody chocolate mints with your picture on them.
Yeah, everybody who participated in the impeachment got a mason jar.
You have a little ribbon on it, a little candy cane, or like a little what are those crunchy sticks with chocolate inside?
Crunchy stick Kit Kat bars? No, wait, that's the reverse.
They're cute. They're like a swirled stick with chocolate inside.
Oh yeah, kind of. Yeah, I don't know what they're called. Kind of like a cinnamon stick looking thing, but it's not.
The thin rolled wafer chocolate-filled cookies manufactured by Pepperidge Farms are called pirouettes. They have no practical purpose other than to give the human species diabetes, hastening their inevitable extinction.
I'm glad that when I got married,
cocoa.
I got married before the whole craft wedding thing.
Oh yeah,
like the custom craft wedding thing was popular.
Yeah, we had mason jars at their wedding.
Mason jars. You have to have the custom giveaways for every guest.
Huh? We didn't do that.
We
did
just
it for the kids.
We did country club. You know,
of course you did. You Republican. He's not a Republican.
We did country club. We had the dinner. We had the ceremony. You know, it was just normal.
It's like tennis rackets. I don't know why your country club. I imagine a bunch of guys with tennis rackets and like little alligators on their collared shirts.
Well, country club is like golfing.
Oh, okay.
I guess it was a golf club.
I'm part of the 99%, so I don't know anything about country clubs.
The 99%. Yeah, still don't get it. Dan had something similar. Dan had a normal wedding.
Okay.
So you had a normal wedding, or were you like?
It was a
shotgun.
Wait, we're getting into our weddings.
Oh, I was just curious, because we're talking about.
There's a place called the Christmas House out here in Rancho area.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah, we did that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. I really liked it.
That's big enough for a wedding. I didn't know that they do wedding stuff there.
Yeah, they do weddings there, and
cool.
yeah, there's a dance floor and the whole backyard area.
Oh, okay.
We did the whole wedding there.
Cool. Oh, nice.
It was cool.
Yeah, we avoided the barn wedding. So anyway, well, I don't even remember what we're talking about.
Pelosi's dentures.
Pelosi's dentures. That's
are we assuming she really wears dentures?
I believe she does, and that's why when she gives these, when she gives her little press conferences that she did, you always see her do this weird thing with her mouth.
Yeah, yeah, she does. She looks like she puts herself together before she comes out. Like,
yeah,
locks her jaw into place.
She's Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove, which is a Disney film.
Yes, it is. It was a good one.
So this impeachment thing, they were saying this is very somber.
Yeah.
And I loved the moment when they declared him impeached and Pelosi slams the gavel and you hear the cheers start to rise up. Did you see this?
No, I did not.
In the House, she was like, he is, or whatever. I declare us impeached. She slams the thing and everybody starts to cheer and she gives the cut it out.
Oh.
Article 1 is adopted. The question is on adoption of Article 2.
She glares over at, where the Democrats are sitting and she does the cut it out symbol.
Stop throwing confetti.
She's like, kids, I have had it up to here with you.
We're on TV.
That brings up another funny article that Frank wrote, which was the somber impeachment ceremony concludes with the impeachment dancers. And the impeachment dancers back there.
Mm-hmm.
So
doing they're 80 or a 90s Disney Channel dance. I grew up on Mickey Mouse Club. Sorry, continue.
It's pronounced Mickey Moose.
Club.
Yeah, so, if you want to make your impeachment look somber and very serious, maybe don't bring out the souvenir pins on the silver platter.
The custom made
signature pins.
Is there a little picture of Trump getting owned on there?
It's one of those novelty pins where Trump's head is on the top and you click it down,
His eyes turn
and his
to
tongue
X's.
comes out or something. But now you can probably buy them on eBay for $10,000. So actually, I wonder. Let's check on eBay and see.
Check.
eBay Nancy Pelosi pin. Fake.
Fake knockoff.
On eBay, it says fake President.
It says fake?
Pelosi.
They admit it?
Yeah, it says fake.
What about dentures? Are dentures on there?
No, it's just like a warning from eBay saying there will be fake pen. Look out for fake Nancy Pelosi pins. Maybe you got to wait a while for them to go up in value before you can sell them.
Yeah.
Got to collect them all.
All right, you ready for this topic of the week, guys?
Let's do it.
And now, the Babylon Bee's topic of the week.
Well, this week it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and because we're insane, we're actually going to talk about it. Because that's the weird world we live in. As white males, we're not allowed to talk about this stuff. And so we're going to do. We're so rebellious. We're going to attempt to have a conversation about Martin Luther King Jr. and all this racial stuff. So, yeah.
And the name of this episode is All This Racial Stuff.
All this racial stuff. So let's just start off with, I think there's everybody hears about Martin Luther King Jr. all the time. We hear the few words of his speech. I thought it'd be interesting to actually get into some of the actual words of his speech that we don't always hear. But just talk about all these ideas and kind of where we're at right now with the way that people handle controversial things and where they were at then and the words he said. So he was the most visible spokesperson for civil rights through nonviolent protest movements inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. And in 1955 organized a Montgomery bus protest after Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat.
I will say that Martin Luther King Jr., when I was growing up in school and such, and this is different like in the South. I don't know. I've heard that, the different states' education systems, they teach things differently. But it was definitely like he was probably the most revered.
Yeah.
He would be up there with like George Washington in terms of...
It's almost unhuman how he's revered.
Yeah. In elementary school, they don't say like, well, it's a complex individual and there's, they're just like, this is a guy that you honor and respect.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot to honor and respect, as we'll talk about. So
yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that he is kind of put up there as one of those heroes. And being in California, maybe that's just over here, but...
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
He was investigated and spied on by the government. I'm just going through some random facts here for his communist sympathies. So that's a random fact that's, a little from the other side.
They don't teach us that in California.
Mm-hmm.
California, as we say.
Assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee in 1968. And there's some interesting things he said in his speech that I'm curious how they would fly today.
Yeah, so let's read a couple of excerpts here. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Agree or disagree?
Hard agree. But yeah, you see that throughout his, if you read the entire speech, he has a lot of reverence for the founding of the country and what they set up. And he basically makes a case that, they set up what, a man is or what a human is, and that we are made in the image of God, and there are consequences for that idea, and that they will play out. He had faith that those things would play out, that everybody would be considered a man, a human being. Then he said, I have a dream. This is probably the most famous line from it, and kind of controversial these days. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Canceled.
Yeah. Yeah, I am really curious what he would make of the way things are now.
He seemed to have an optimism running through this.
Yeah. Speech. Yeah, there's a real optimism through it. Also found interesting his, what he says about violence, and this is a little bit longer chunk, but I found this part interesting. Something I must say to my people who stand on the worn threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred.
Cancel.
We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Antifa. Listen, he's talking to you.
Yeah, it actually says Antifa.
Yeah, he says Antifa speech. Right there. Really, he yells it. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force.
Soul force. That sounds like an anime.
Yeah, it sounds like some music's going to start there.
Soul Force 5.
The marvelous new... It's nice to get a little MLK commentary. The marvelous new militancy, which has engulfed the Negro, can I say Negro? Community, must not lead us to distrust all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny.
Martin Luther King Jr. is canceled.
Is that your tweet?
That was my tweet with the clappy hand. I never know. Are they clapping on the words or are they clapping after the words? Like if you were to read it, is it Martin Luther King Jr. is canceled?
It seems like it'd be hard to hear your word if you're clapping over it. But it sounds like you're bleeping yourself.
The rhythm is weird to go Martin Luther King. I feel like I'm like on a hoedown, like trying to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Who talks like that with a clap while they're talking? If he had, I wonder if he clapped on every word of his speech. There's video. He didn't.
There's video. He didn't. Fact check. False. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive.
Yeah, that's the one I found most interesting there is the idea that unearned suffering is redemptive.
And he says, let us not wallow in the valley of despair.
Imagine those words. That's a huge theme in Viktor Frankl's book, The Man's Search for Meaning. The people that could find that in unearned suffering, that there is meaning, were the ones who, survived, if they serve, if obviously there's people that just were killed, but the people that held on and that cope the best, that had that concept that you can actually find meaning in your trials and in your suffering. And that seems like a really foreign way of thinking in these days where we're pretty much just looking for vengeance and some form of justice, but it has to be at the expense of somebody else.
I'm just sitting here thinking about that. Doesn't make for a very good radio.
Oh, yeah. Good thinking, yeah. This is the Kyle thinking portion.
This is the Kyle thinking part. Yeah, that's what Jesus told us, is that in this world we will have suffering. We will have trials. We will have tribulations and troubles. So I think there's an element where we have to accept that this is a fallen world, that we are gonna encounter systemic issues that we cannot fix.
Yeah.
And I think the two main responses we can have to that are extreme anger, or we can have not accepting it really, but making peace with that and saying, I'm going to allow this to grow me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now it's your turn to think.
The frustrating thing about this whole topic is it does feel like that the left has held it hostage.
Yeah, well, even what you were saying before, like a couple of white guys talking about race.
Yeah, we're not allowed to.
Like, this is probably an illegal podcast.
And that's one reason we're talking so slowly and carefully.
There's a sense where, if I say something wrong.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge that I don't have the experiences that black people have.
Yeah, totally.
I've never been mistaken for a black person,
That's good. I don't know where to go after your jokes.
Well, I think there's a sense where people will take their one experience,
right,
and say,
they apply it to everybody. Yeah,
totally. I personally have never been pulled over by the cops for being black.
Yeah,
so it doesn't happen.
Or even like me, I was raised like pretty poor. My mom was poverty level. Like we lived in low income housing that like the government, the churches brought us boxes of food.
She couldn't afford ear infection medicine, so she had to use other
means. That was in the subscriber portion, but we can make that public knowledge. My mom peed my ears. But even that, I can't, I still can't say I had an experience of a black kid in our culture. It's just still different. I can understand what it's like to be poor, but
not saying that black people people are poor.
Not saying all black people are poor. Yeah, everything you say you can't. I'm not saying that. But where are we going with this?
I don't know. I think it's good. Keep talking.
No, we're
keep
struggling through it. It's good to struggle through it. I think what I was trying to get at is that the left language of this capitalized in such a almost like a scheming way that like you can't say anything else. If anything, it's like they set it up so anything else you say that doesn't fit the narrative that they've set up makes you sound racist.
Right.
Like a lot of it's just the systemic racism stuff. Like you either have to just fully accept that it's all there and it's all happening. There's this huge conspiracy of racism going on. If you deny any amount of it, or even just say maybe it's not the best thing to focus on, or anything alternate to that, you are, what are you siding with the KKK?
Yes, I am. No, I'm just kidding.
Or at least that's how it feels.
Yeah.
And I think it's unhealthy to tell somebody that like there's a huge conspiracy of people that are going to just want to ruin your life, and that you're living a victim of this, and it just seems like a bad message to give people, like as opposed to what Martin Luther King was saying here.
Yeah, and I think, can we at the same time hold like racism is bad and racism exists?
Yeah.
Racism is a real problem that our society faces, and there are racist people that exist that are out there. Mm-hmm. Like we can say that without necessarily buying into like this whole intersectional framework of oppression, and that every part of our society is touched and tainted and owned by racism. Like I can acknowledge those two things at the same time. Say, things are not as bad as you think, as the left seems to think that they are. Mm-hmm. But I can say, yes, there are real problems that we face.
And even if I was to agree that there, and I don't, but if I really, okay, I completely agree, racism, the problem is as bad as you say it is. My disagreement, a lot of it comes down to the solutions that they're proposing. Like, a lot of the solutions that, or even if they are solutions, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of solutions being offered. It's reactions. A lot of it's eye for an eye kind of stuff, or just a lot of situations where it feels like they'd be happier if the racism got reversed rather than, you'd think like the goal would be to get to a point where none of we can say this isn't such a scary topic to talk about. We've found a place where it's like, it's so in the past, it's just comfortable now, but it doesn't seem like anybody wants to get there.
Well, and maybe that is the awkwardness of it, is like when we were reading through this information about MLK Jr., I mean, I'm looking at the dates, assassinated in 1968. I'm like, that was not that long ago.
Yeah.
Like my parents probably remember.
Yeah.
They would have been in elementary school or whatever, remember when it happened. Like it's not that far away.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird. I mean, it seems like the progression of race in my lifetime, it almost seems like it went, like it felt like it was really kind of, I don't think it felt like it was solved or anything, but like it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. That's the weird thing. Like
the discussions
and the outrage.
I wonder if it's gotten worse or if it's like social media amplification. Maybe.
I think, it's probably that. And I think that it's the easiest thing to create outrage about, to like, especially social media, virtue signaling, all that kind of stuff, and for the media to use. I think that's another thing to consider in all this. I think that, I think we all have to think about who gains from this outrage and from, all this kind of stuff. I think it's, probably the media driving it.
Well, maybe that's also evidence that, as a society, it's like there are very few actual racists, or a lot fewer than we expect.
Yeah.
Like maybe there are people who have some racial biases that are undetected and just simmering beneath the surface. There probably are some prejudices that a lot of people have that they're not aware of. But whenever somebody gets called out for racism, it's like universally on the left and right.
Yeah, if it's actual evidence, real racism,
everybody is against that.
But that's the weird position we're in right now. It's like there's a ton of people who believe that Donald Trump and anybody who supports him,
right,
is part of the KKK. Like they're saying this, and they're saying like this is fact. Like this is I don't even know how to get around that. Like, I don't know what to do with that.
Racist in chief.
Yeah.
I thought they had some clever one. It must not have been racist in chief. They had white supremacists in chief. They said something. There was some.
It was clever?
It wasn't clever,
Shocking.
but it was one of those things they say on social media where it's like it starts with the same letter or something.
Okay.
You know. So.
Anyway.
So let's talk a little bit about Martin Luther King Jr. And I think one of the struggles we have is that we all want, because he is such a revered figure, we all want him to agree with us. Mm-hmm. We all want, we all want his, we want to use his, especially his I Have a Dream speech, but all his works and everything to support our take on race.
Right.
And I think probably the reality is a lot more complex than that. Mm-hmm. I mean, also, we know that there's some issues with his personal life. There was some other things. And some people make a lot of that, and some people make little of that. I kind of think, like, God uses flawed people. We can go back to Martin Luther and John Calvin, and we even
pretty much everyone in the Bible.
Every character in the Bible except for one. Mm-hmm. That one is Jesus.
Oh, that's curious. I thought it was Job.
No, not Job. But
came close.
He got close, but right up until the end, and then he starts yelling at God, and that's not good. I love that. Anyway, okay, never mind. I'm talking about Job. Anyway, I like when Job starts yelling at God, and then God goes, "Shut up." And he says, "Listen up. I'm going to talk to you now."
I wouldn't be expecting that.
It's like, shut your mouth. Pity the fool. All right, so yeah, so I don't know what place that necessarily has in this conversation, but I do know that. We'll just talk about the Gospel Coalition through their Martin Luther King 50th anniversary. I believe it was the 50th anniversary of his death a couple years ago. Must have been, because it was 2018. And a lot of evangelicals were upset that they did something about MLK because he did have a lot of these personal issues and possibly some heresies that he believed and stuff. I think it's a legitimate concern, to say why are we holding a conference honoring this guy? Especially when you look at the hypocrisy of, it's not okay for you to vote for Trump. He has personal issues.
Yeah.
But we're going to honor this guy because, we agree with these points that he made about race. I think it's a legitimate concern. But I do think that we can honor Martin Luther King's ideas, many of them, and not necessarily endorse wholesale everything that he did. Yeah. Again, that's the problem with cancel culture. We look at people and we judge them by one tweet they made, or we judge them by what they believed 10 years ago, or personal failings, instead of saying, well, people can grow and change. And flawed people can have good ideas,
Yeah.
Mic dropped.
So the content of his character.
I'm kind of saying that we should judge people not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And I came up with that on the spot.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, ideas need to be able to stand on their own, and they're true or they're not true. Doesn't whoever they're coming from,
or mostly true, or mostly false,
right?
Or labeled satire,
or they are morally true, even if they're factually untrue.
So I'm curious, have you ever had an experience that you would say was where you met an actual cold-blooded racist?
I've met people that kind of make racist jokes, but I mean, they're just kind of just being shocking. I think that's probably, I came from a small redneck town in Oregon, so I think the closest ever was we were on tour and we were going through Wyoming, I think, and some guys on the side of the road, they all had shaved heads and they all had the tattoo that signifies white power. I think it's like a spider web or some kind of thing. I don't know. My buddy was with us, who's a Malaysian. He's way more aware of that. He's like, those guys are skinheads, man. But they were overall kind to us. But it was they did look a little freaky.
I believe I remember in high school, I think it was, that it was the first time I met someone that I think we were driving in his car or something, and he goes by and he was mad at the way someone was driving, and he yells the N-word, and they were black or whatever. He yells the N-word. And I never
wow.
I kind of was aware what the word was, but then just hearing someone say it, and I'm just just that shocking moment. Though there are people actually, because I guess I was kind of in that bubble where I didn't really know that people actually. And I guess I had heard racist jokes,
Yeah, actually, I was at a cigar shop a while, just not too long ago, and there were some drunk guys sitting out front, and they kept making these N-word jokes out very loud. And there was a black woman right inside the shop, and she immediately came out and told them shut up. And they listened, but it was thick in the air. It was like,
wow.
But that's the weird thing, is like it's characterized like it's normal or something, but like when somebody does it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There is this societal standard that we all kind of like.
It's like, you not do that.
You know that's not okay, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is kind of shocking. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's different elsewhere. I don't know. That has been my experience, though. Yeah,
I know my friend Doug, who talked about Earthworm guy. He filmed a low budget movie in West Virginia, in a small town that and this is back in like the 80s or early 90s, I think. And he said it was an eye opener for him, where it was way more accepted to be outwardly racist, KKK, all that stuff. But he said the weird thing is that they even had that there were black people that lived in the town, and they always had this attitude like, well, you're not like one of them. You're not one of them. So they have like an idea of what black people are like, and they think that this guy is the exception. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I have a friend who's a pastor too, who moved to the South recently, and that was a weird thing where it was controversial that he was going to marry a black and white couple in his church. He couldn't believe that was even an issue. Like, it's still.
Oh, it was controversial.
This day and age.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's still out there. So,
well, let's talk a little bit about solutions. What can people do to combat racism? And I mean, how are things going to change? It is still an issue. It's still out there. What is our responsibility? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of condemnation of churches. Like if your church doesn't have enough of minorities, well, you need to reach out and you need to diversify. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think it's a problem. Like if you live in an area that's mostly white, if your church happens to be mostly white, like that's kind of,
or if there's mostly black church.
Well, and that's the other side of it, right? Is because the black church, it's its own thing. I don't necessarily know if that should be the case. Like I would love if people just went to the nearest Christian church. Didn't even really see it, but I know that will get me canceled to say, oh, I don't see color, because and I don't know that that's really something you should say. I think buying into that wholesale is a little, one-dimensional
it's a bold
take on
statement.
It. But
I remember at one point I was like thinking, man, I've never had friends all my friends have always been white. And then I was like in my 20s, and I realized, like, wait, my two best friends growing up in Coos Bay, one was Malaysian, one was Mexican. I hadn't thought of them as those races until I moved down here, where it's way more of a big issue. I don't know. Not saying it. And the weird thing is, like, racial humor was like huge with those guys. Like, it was just nonstop. Like, they loved so we almost made these jokes together about each other's race. Yeah. So we had a guy who was Filipino with us, so I was making dog eating jokes with him. Yeah. He was making them, the Malaysian friend, he was making, his middle name was Bin Hashim, so like he had like Bin Laden, so I was making terrorist jokes with him. And
I stayed Mexican. With a Filipino family for a little. I stayed with a Filipino family for like a short-term mission trip, and they always threatened to eat the dog. They did it like kind of as a joke on themselves, but the dog would like jump up on the couch and like, oh, we're going to cook you. We're going to cook you. Get down. I was just like, whoa, but it was, I kind of think it's fun when you have a group that's like mixed race, your friends, you're hanging out. Yeah. And it's like when I had friends like that, it would make fun of me for being white, Yeah. It's like endearing. Yeah. You're thinking, I'm the white guy. Cool.
Yeah. He would call us the white devil jokingly all this time. But,
internalized.
But racism. That's how when you can become, you're really comfortable with somebody, you can just make those jokes, and it's so freeing and it's hilarious. Like there's no end to how funny it can be. Like we laughed our heads off. But that's one thing I feel like this. I don't know if we call it legalism or this like trying to create this tense environment for everybody. It's almost like trying to kill any chance of that existing, which to me is like kind of sad. It's sad that we're gonna, there's something wrong with my relationship with two of my best friends, in life, my friends, Adam and Anthony, that like somehow we were wrong to do that. It's almost just silly. It's silly to even think it was, but like, to create an environment where we would just never go down their path. I don't think that's the right path. I think the right path is to head in that direction where we can all laugh about it and get it behind us,
Yeah. Did you say that because you're a privileged white guy?
Yeah, I guess so.
Educate yourself.
But why is it so, why is dwelling on this stuff? Unless you think and I think that's the divider. Some people think there's a systemic thing that has to be rooted out. It's almost like a conspiracy theory, right? And that's what they think needs to be dealt with. Is that why we have to keep dwelling on it?
Racist in every bush type.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a distinction when we talk about actual solutions. You're talking about the systemic thing. I think we can all say racism is bad. There is some systemic racism. And when we talk about solutions, though, I think we can believe that and not say, well, the solution for this is financial actions on the part of the government, more laws, more regulations, or even
speech codes.
Or even leaving the government out of it. You know, like you were saying, making a more tense atmosphere where you cannot say certain things socially. I don't know that that's the solution.
Right.
And I think I can believe that that's not the solution and believe that racism is a problem.
Right.
I mean, personally, I believe the answer is the gospel. This is where the music starts playing and the organ.
We're all created in the image of God.
The organ comes in,
Martin Luther King, that was one of his basic ideas. We're all created in the image of God. We come from the same, I don't know how few people is it straight out of the ark, right? That's the idea from the Bible.
And ultimately from the same two people.
Yeah.
There's Adam, and then there was Eve.
Oh, yeah.
So that'd be two. Yeah.
Eve, Adam and that lady.
Adam and that lady. Adam and Adam's wife.
Yeah.
Mrs. Adam.
It's weird. You think you were like, I'm a Christian and a patriot, and we don't need none of them black people around here. How do you balance that with the fact that your Bible says that you both came from the exact same two people?
Yeah. So there is something fundamentally different about the Christian approach to race because we believe that every single one of us is an image bearer of God, and how you treat them is representative of how. It's like spitting on a painting of God if you insult somebody, for their race or whatever. So there's something fundamentally different about that, and I believe that we are all brothers and sisters, versus I guess the Darwinian view, we're kind of brothers and sisters, right? But
we're brothers and sisters with everything.
But still, there's nothing unique about it, and there's no imprint of God.
We're brothers and sisters with dust.
With
space dust.
With some
feces.
Some primate that evolved.
We're brothers and sisters with everything. There's nothing we're not.
So you and platypi are brothers and sisters.
That's right. Fascinating.
That's the conclusion of the matter.
Yeah. We still got more material and we're running out of time here. So, solved. Martin Luther King Jr., race.
Yeah. I feel like
preach the gospel, love the Lord, love your fellow man as created in the image of God. I do feel like it's that simple.
Yeah, and I know we're running out of time, but that is controversial. That would get you canceled in certain circles to say, well, just treat the races that the people that of different races. Treat them like image bearers of God. That's the solution. And if everybody did that, we would be in a much better place.
And that goes for you too,
listeners.
Evil redneck people.
Yeah, you people. Wonder if we have any evil racists.
Yeah, we got some guys sitting around the
KKK's
little Weber grill with their MAGA hats on, Confederate flags everywhere.
Yeah, they
were cheering all the way up until that point. What the heck?
They're currently writing their this is why I unsubscribed from the Babylon Bee
iTunes review
email. Unsubscribe me from your newspaper.
Democrats.
Democrats. All right, let's move on to hate mail.
Speaking of that, let's get to hate mail.
I really miss Adam Ford.
All right, here's a email that
is this from one of those guys?
Probably.
We have to do some flower bedding here. I think. You ready, Dan?
Okay.
Ready.
This is from a guy whose name is Joe Mama.
Wow. I wonder what nationality that last name is.
Mama? Italian, maybe?
Mama.
All right, Joe, here's what he says. You guys are a complete joke. Hillary said she would sleep on it to recharge her lizard brain. just making
flower bed
up to appease your bumpkin
flower bed
audience and soliciting funds to fight Snopes. LOL.
Lol.
Lol. Anyone who believes your content is a
flower bed. Flower bed.
Aren't you intelligent fooling them? Kings of the
flower bed.
I wish I could say that one word, but I don't think it's appropriate. It's a word for it's a
intellectually challenged
person. So yes. So
yeah,
we are the kings of.
I know Norm Macdonald was on a show and he was trying to not say that word, the R word. Mm-hmm. And so he kept saying Down syndrome instead, and then he got even more trouble for that. Yeah. He's like, no, you'd have to have Down syndrome or something like that. So if I thought that, I would think that.
I like how in his mind that fixes the joke.
You know, that he'd already gotten in trouble for what he'd said about Roseanne and Louis C.K. So he's trying, you'd have to have Down syndrome to think that I would believe that. And then he just got himself in even deeper hot water.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, he's the best. He followed me on Twitter recently.
It's a big achievement in your life.
For me, but he hasn't answered any DMs though.
All right, everyone.
If you're listening, Norm.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody, including Norm Macdonald and Cletus in Alabama, just gathered around the grill with the MAGA hats. Please forgive us for destroying your worldview.
Yeah. Thank you all.
The rest of this podcast is in our super exclusive premium subscriber lounge. If you're not a Babylon Bee premium subscriber, go to babylonbee.com/plans for full-length ad-free podcasts, access to our headline forum, 20% off the items in the Babylon Bee store, a gift, and more. Please drop us a review on iTunes and share the podcast with a friend. Feedback and love mail go to podcast@babylonbee.com. Follow Ethan at AxeCop and Kyle at _Kyle_man on Twitter. Kyle and Ethan would like to thank Seth Dillon for paying the bills, Adam Ford for creating their job, the other writers for tirelessly pitching headlines, the subscribers, and you, the listener. Until next time, this is Dave D'Andrea, the voice of the Babylon Bee, reminding you that eating chicken wings isn't cruel because chickens don't need them anyway.